Good morning, Morgan, and good morning to any of Morgan's friends that are joining us for this video. Now, in the last video, we took a PDF file and we converted it to a CSV file, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to take that file that we created and we're going to read it, and then we're going to write it, we're going to make it, actually we're going to make a copy of it. But before we do that, let's get this reading done.
CSV TV02 Dialect equals Excel from params.
What the stupid machine? All right, so this is the command that you use to define the writer. Okay, I guess I don't know why the reader. We must have done the read last time, but now we're going to do a write. Okay, so here's the. Let's just do the reading, and I'll show you the code. It'll make sense when you see the code because this example doesn't make sense to me.
Return a writer object responsible for converting the user's data into delimited strings on the given file-like object. Xfile can be any object with a write method. If Xfile is a file object, it should be opened with new line equals 1. An optional dialect parameter can be given which is used to define a set of parameters specific to a particular CSV dialect.
Okay, what are they talking about when they talk about dialects? Okay, what it is it's when I'm sure you guys are familiar with an Excel spreadsheet program. It's when you go in there and you're importing an Excel spreadsheet and you can change what the thing is delimited by, and we'll get into all the different variables. But when they talk about a dialect, they're talking about how Excel defines the file that it's getting ready to read in. You know, is it using a comma or is it using something else? That sort of thing. How do you know to start a new line? Where's the headers? Follow me? Let's keep reading.
It may be an instance of a subclass of the dialect class or one of the strings returned by the list_dialects function. The other
all the dialect is, it's an object that has a value for all those parameters.
Optional from params keyword arguments can be given to override individual formatting parameters in the current dialect. For full details about dialects and formatting parameters, see the Dialects and Formatting Parameters section. To make it as easy as possible to interface with modules which implement the DB API, the value none is written as the empty string. While this isn't a reversible transformation, it makes it easier to dump SQL null data values to CSV files without pre-processing the data returned from a cursor, fetch * call. All other
Okay, cursor, fetch, they're talking about accessing a database.
Non-string data are stringified with str before being written. A short usage example.
All right, it's a freaking horrible example. We're not going to use an example. We're going to look at the code, and I'll talk about this. All right, now what they're doing here in this statement is they are creating a special dialect to describe whatever file. So it's very, I mean, you can do a lot with this, a lot of options on these CSV files. Okay, and this is how you would create that dialect object using that command. But like I said, let's not worry about that right now. Come on.
Associate dialect with name. Name must be a string. The dialect can be specified either by passing a subclass of dialect or by params keyword argument. Okay,
when you pass something a subclass of the dialect, what it is you're making a copy of a existing object, okay, and you're just changing a little something. Like if the object was a car, okay, let's make it 4 doors instead of 2. Let's make it blue instead of green. And you're just pretty much overriding the original.
Arguments, or both, with keyword arguments overriding parameters of the dialect. For full details about dialects and formatting parameters, see section Dialects and Formatting Parameters. To make it easier to specify the format of input and output records, specific formatting parameters are grouped together into dialects. A dialect is a subclass of the dialect class having a set of specific methods and a single validate method. When creating reader or writer objects, the programmer can specify a string or a subclass of the dialect class as the dialect parameter. In addition to, or instead of, the dialect parameter, the programmer can also specify individual formatting parameters, which have the same names as the attributes defined below for the dialect class. Dialects support the following attributes.
Oh, right. Here are all the different attributes that you can have when you're describing the CSV file that you're using. Okay, what is it delimited by? Let's just go ahead and read them. I'll let the machine read them so I don't skip anything.
Delimiter. A one-character string used to separate fields. It defaults to comma. Double quote. Controls how instances of quote char appearing inside a field should themselves be quoted. When true, the character is doubled. When false, the escape char must be a one-character string which is used as a prefix to the quote char. It defaults to true. Escape char. A one-character string used to escape the delimiter if quoting is set to quote underscore none. It defaults to none. Line terminator. The string used to terminate lines in the CSV file. It defaults to backslash or backslash n. Quote char. A one-character string used to quote elements containing the delimiter or which start with the quote char. It defaults to double quotes. Quoting. Controls when quotes should be generated by the writer. It can take on any of the quote underscore asterisk constants, see section 12.20.1, and defaults to quote underscore minimal. Skip initial space. When true, white space immediately following the delimiter is ignored. The default is false.
All right, and all these things are all attributes that you can set when you import something into the Excel spreadsheet. But using the CSV module, we're packaging all those attributes into something called a dialect. Okay, and this is just described to you the standard run-of-the-mill dialect. So when you create a subclass, you're going like, I want to use something else besides the double quotes. I want to use a tab instead of the freaking /r/n, which by the way is /t for tab. Anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and go look at the code. All right. All right. And it has occurred to me that this code actually deals with stuff that we haven't covered yet, but we'll talk about it. All right, so we're actually going to see a preview of we're going to get into more detail in the next video. But remember how it was using those open and for the read and open for the write? Well, here we go. Where oh, by the way, and here I'm overriding one of the parameters of the dialect, and here I'm telling it what the input file is, right? And here we have our input file, our trusty Epstein flight log, oh my, and then we're going to output Epstein flight log, oh my, out. Okay, we import our stuff. Here, for some reason, we can't get the header files off of the file, which I suspect we can. We just haven't learned how to do that. This is just a little internal thingy that I put in to keep track of how many records go through this thing. And here we go. We're opening up the file that we want to read, the input file, right? That's what this open does here. And this second open here is the output file. And the interesting thing about the output file is you have to have a freaking close to close it, right? So we read the file into this reader object, and then when we go to write it, we write to the writer object. Okay? All right. And with that, oh, what's this code doing here, and why is it commented out? I don't know. Pay no attention to that, class. Anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the output when I ran this. And here we are in the output where I'm like going like, is it in the loop? Yes, it's in the loop. How many times has it gone through this loop? Oh, it's gone through 1,009 times. All right, yeah. Boring, I know. And look, it just goes on forever because I think there's like 10 or 12,000 records in this file. And hence why you want to use Python, because when you're going through that kind of data, okay, when you're going through thousands and thousands of records to get information, you want an automated process. And that's what Python is good for. All right, with that, see you in the next video. The next video, we're going to talk more about these input, the reads and the writes. Okay, and with that, we're going to end the video, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.